Hello everyone, Giltar here with an action figure review. This is actually a video response to Vegeta8259's recent review of the Revoltech figure Evangelion Unit 5, and I believe it's the weapons version. It was because of his review that I was reminded I actually own some Revoltech figures. I've taken them out of storage. They've been in storage for about a year and a half or 2 years now, and I've had a pretty fun time today just taking a look at them again and sort of becoming reacquainted with the toy line. So I'm going to show those off to you guys first, just briefly. I've got Getter, or Black Getter. Got Megatron and Convoy, or Optimus Prime in North America here. I've got Giant Robo, GR2, Getter 2, EVA 1 test type in the it's a special edition figure with glow-in-the-dark plastic. This is the EVA 3 production model, which is a very cool, sort of more, I guess, production, so mass production design. And finally, EVA 2, and this is, I think, the 1997 OVA or movie version of the figure with some design updates. Back to this. So yeah, I just want to thank again Vegeta8259 for doing his review. This review of mine here will be a two-parter. In the first part, I'll go over sort of the model, or not model, action figure details, articulation, and then I'll briefly go over, or at least talk about the accessories, and I'll move into the accessories in part 2 of the review and my final thoughts. Just to start off, also, Revoltech is a toy line made by Kyoto. It originally, I think, came out in 2006. I think early or mid 2006. I think around May, or maybe April, May, or June, one of those months. And it was because of the Revoltech line's release of Convoy and Megatron that I was sort of reminded of Transformers as a young adult, and it sort of rekindled my interest in Transformers and brought me back into fandom. So now I'm also a Transformers action figure collector because of the Revoltech figures. Revoltech itself, I think, started off mainly using mecha franchises for their figures. So a lot of things like, Macross, Giant Robo, Getter Robo, what else? Obviously, Neon Genesis Evangelion, and some other properties like that. And now they've branched out. I mean, throughout the last few years, they've gotten into female characters. So I think it's called their Fraulein series of Revoltech figures. They have one for, I think, named Yamaguchi after the last name of the sort of head designer of the Revoltech figures. They've done other lines too, like they've done some figures of the Detroit Metal City characters. I'm a fan of that anime too. It's pretty funny. I have to read the manga at some point. They do some Hokuto no Ken action figures, which I want to get into as well. I'm a fan of that series. What else? Street Fighter, and some other things. They just do a lot of figures now. One of the recent figures that they've released was of Dankuga, and I want to get that because that looks pretty cool to me. So yeah, that's just a brief history of Revoltech and its sort of impact on my own sort of hobby collecting and such. Now, this action figure we'll get into now, if you haven't guessed it by now, it's the VF-1J, or basically the main Valkyrie fighter, or variable, or Veritech fighter if you're a Robotech fan, from SDF, or Super Dimension Fortress Macross. I'm a big fan of the VF-1J series of Valkyries. I like the subsequent Macross properties, or rather designs of their various Valkyries, but for me, the VF-1Js, or rather the VF-1 series of Valkyries, are my favorite by far. Even the most recent Macross Frontier, which I really like. I like those designs, but I like these old school, sort of more sturdy looking designs more. Now, as you can see, the figure has a lot of articulation ability, very posable, and that's thanks to the revolver joints. I guess it's patented by Kyoto for the Revoltech line. The revolver joints are basically a combination of ball joints and ratchet joints. So they're ball joints to allow a lot of good mobility, but then if you can listen, they're ratchet joints to allow, in my opinion, a more durable and strong joint for fixed positions and for long-term durability. The three main types of joints you'll find in action figures are ball joints, hinge or swivel joints and ratchet joints. And now out of the three, the hinge or swivel joints are the weakest. They rely specifically on friction to give resistance, and they'll wear down fairly quickly over time. Ball joints are very good for a range of mobility, but they will also wear down at a little quicker pace than a ratchet joint. But one benefit of a ball joint is that you can tighten them up with relative ease again. A lot of people use either nail polish, or they'll use like a super glue or normal glue and just coat the ball joint and insert it into the socket after the glue has dried and cured, and that'll offer more resistance again. And then finally we have the ratchet joints, which use what's called ratcheted joints. They have fixed positions, they ratchet, and they're very good for holding positions for a long time, and they can hold a lot of weight usually. So I mean, they're wonderful for people who want to display their action figures. However, they do have their downsides too, and I'll get into them in part 2 of my review. Now, unfortunately, my camera doesn't pick up or doesn't focus too well on things sometimes. I'll move the box out of the way. So you probably can't make it out too well, but it has a lot of fine panel line detail here. These grooves that you could, if you wanted to, panel line them on your own, or I've left them as they are because I just like sort of the naked or plain appearance of the figure. And actually, even the back wings here are capable of movement, of articulation, so that's cool. However, the one downside to me as a Macross fan, the one downside of this action figure is the fact that it's not transformable. It's strictly in Batroid or humanoid form. You can't transform it, so that's unfortunate. However, the good news is Revoltech is releasing a line of transformable Valkyries. I don't know if they're out yet, but they'll be out soon, first quarter of 2010. So I'm really looking forward to those action figures because you'll have Revoltech technology in transformable Valkyrie, action figures. So that'll be very nice to see. This is the sort of super version. It's the Super Valkyrie version. If you guys can make that out. So it comes with super pack components. So the armor and extra sort of booster packs, weapon packs like missile pods. It actually comes with extra hands as well. Right now I have a sort of trigger finger grip hand for the gun pod. I've got an open sort of hand for more dynamic emoting for posing. Very cool. I mean, the joints all around, I won't really sort of go into detail every one, but I'll just show them off, like at the hips. You can rotate at the upper thigh. Obviously the knees have ratchet joints. The ankles are ratcheted, which are nice. They can only go back and forward or up and down. They don't have side to side wiggle movement. Joints allow rotation at the elbow, at the wrist. You can bend at the elbow, greater than 90 degrees. The shoulders themselves, you can rotate at the ball joint all the way around, so that's nice. The head itself can rotate all the way around as well. Another revolver joint, so it's a ball joint with ratcheting ability. And then there's a joint at the sort of mid chest, or where the rib cage would be. The cockpit and the this part of the jet form sort of a chest rib cage component. So you can turn at the sort of waist, and then you can move back and forth at the torso. So that's nice. And again, the wings have movement. Now you just saw, and this is a good chance to sort of demonstrate the revolver joint. It's a ball joint. The other peg is in the sort of the shoulder area. So the one good thing about these joints is that they're kind of like a soft plastic or a hard rubber material. I don't know exactly what it is. Similar to polycap joints, but they're much stronger, more durable. And you can buy revolver joint replacements, so that if something goes bad, you can, I think, buy a replacement for the joint. So that's really good too. So I'm thinking about picking up some packs of joints so that I'll have them ready for the future should I ever need them. So that's a really great touch, that you can actually replace the joints, because one issue with action figures is that the joints will wear down eventually no matter what, unless you never touch it. So having the ability to replace the joints is great. So I guess that will conclude part 1 of this review. I'll be back in part 2, and I'll go over the sort of the accessories and sort of my final thoughts. So thanks for watching. And check out Vegeta 8259's review as well. It's a great action figure, the Unit 5 weapon version.